What's up, Switch and Grooves Nation? Tonight, we're actually ripping off the rearview mirror and going full throttle, old school style, taking SG back to the very beginning, unleashing our raw, uncensored, personal thoughts and opinions on the racing season so far. And tonight, taking the wheel over the NASCAR side of things, well, it's the one and only Nathan Johns. And as always, I'm Russ Fritz, your trusted dirt analyst. And I'm telling you now, strap in tight, because this isn't just another race recap. This is Switching Grooves. Nathan, what the hell is going on, you married son of a gun, you?
I know, I finally got the checkered flag ring and everything. I'm all excited.
Oh, man. What the heck were you thinking?
I don't know. All about racing, I guess. I got to ring the match, checkered flag.
Oh, I don't know if that's enough, bud.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Hey, congratulations, man. I'm glad to see that you're happy, man.
I'm happy to be back, and I'm happy to finally be married. Get that behind me.
Yeah, it was kind of nerve-wracking there towards the end, but it always is. So,
yeah.
And believe me, I've been there before.
But I'm definitely glad to be back, and apparently, I missed a lot of NASCAR news while I was gone. So,
you missed.
If you want me to start right off, I'll start right off.
Go for it, bud, because I really don't have anything for dirt racing except some of the drama that's gone on that I'm just going to give my opinion on. So,
trust me, I've got a lot of drama on my end too. All right, let's start off with the big announcement for next year. NASCAR will be racing in San Diego on a Navy base. They are racing in honor of America's Armed Forces for their 250th anniversary. I'm super excited about it. I put a down payment down for 2 tickets because I want to go see a street race. Whether it's technically it's replacing Chicago next year, which honestly I'm not really against. I kind of think it's gonna be kind of nice to do a unique year, in a different place to celebrate America's 250th anniversary of that. So kind of cool. It's supposed to be Father's Day weekend next year. June 19th to the 21st, and all 3 series will be racing in San Diego on the street course, which I'm kind of excited to see how the truck series races on the street course. We get the Xfinity Cup all the time. Now we get actual, regular street vehicle looking vehicles on the road. That'll be kind of fun. I'm excited about that one.
Dude, that's insane. And they're going all the way to San Diego on a naval base. Never thought I'd see that.
And another thought with the trucks, and I agree with this point. They were supposed to make this series a cost-effective series. People were already complaining about going to Vegas. I hate to break it to NASCAR. That's a little bit further than Vegas. You kind of took what they said and said, screw it. Kept on going. So, if not a lot of truck series teams go, not be surprised. It's probably going to be all the full-time guys, and that's it. You might get a 30 or 28 truck field. That's it. There's not going to be a lot of part-timers. But I could be wrong. It's not until next year, so I guess that's a good thing.
Hey, you never know.
But
could be good, could be bad.
The video that they posted for the announcement was pretty awesome. I won't lie. I actually thought it was quite good. Supposedly, it was supposed to resemble the Top Gun Maverick trailer because I believe that was where it was filmed at. So it's kind of cool. I do want to get into today's Indianapolis, weekend. We're going to get into that recap because I have some very strong opinions about this, and I've already talked to some people, and they know my opinion, and I know theirs. But we'll get to that. So we're going to start off with not the big story, the second biggest story of the weekend: Justin Allgaier versus Kyle Larson. Coming to, I believe it was like lap 86 or 87 of lap 100. Coming to the green, Kyle Larson and Justin Allgaier are in the front row. Kyle Larson was on the inside, Justin Allgaier on the outside. Now, Justin Allgaier at this point had won stage 2 and finished second in stage 1. He had basically, dominated the field. We come down to lap 87 and take the green flag, and going into turn 1, I believe it was turn 1, Kyle Larson slips up off the bottom, ends up making contact with Justin Allgaier, putting him in the wall, basically ending his day. Now, on top of all of this, Junior Motorsports is on the verge of getting their 100th victory. And Allgaier was, told by Junior, stand on it into turn 1 and, just do whatever you got to do to win the race. Well, unfortunately, Kyle Larson is a Junior Motorsports affiliate with Hendrick Motorsports team. So essentially, Hendrick Motorsports took out Junior Motorsports for that part of the 100th win. So there was the caution there, and I think Brandon Jones got contact in the ordeal. So, I mean, I can totally understand Justin Allgaier's frustration. The devastation would be real for that. There's no doubt in my mind. But in the end, Connor Zilich ended up winning Junior Motorsports' 100th victory. It is his 5th win of the year, 3rd in a row, and he's won 4 of the last 6 races. And the last 4 races he has won have been non-road course races. So I'm starting to think that, we have the ultimate weapon when it comes to next year for Trackhouse, because if he can win on ovals and he can win on road courses, we're not looking at just any, young kid. I think he's 19, and he's already, dominated most of what road course ringers can't do, win on ovals, which is insane to me. So we may be talking about him way more next year in the Cup Series, because I feel like he's going to be a threat for the playoffs next year, if not the final round of the championship next year. I got high hopes for him. But I would like to talk about the elephant in the room.
Oh, boy.
Austin Hill has taken it upon himself to make himself the biggest idiot in the NASCAR Xfinity Series right now. And I know that there's some NASCAR people out there, and I want to make this very clear. This does not affect, anything on this show. This is strictly my opinions. I think Austin Hill should be banned for the rest of the season. I know it's not what NASCAR will probably end up doing. They'll probably give him a slap on the wrist and whatnot, which is BS in my opinion. But when you right rear somebody, not once, but twice in your career, the first one you should have got a suspension, and you didn't, or at least a penalty, or a monetary or points, nothing. Austin Hill has a history of aggressive and downright stupid retaliation. And this one should have been the one that put the nail in the coffin and send him packing for at least 2 weeks, if not more. I understand the baseline penalty is 1 week. This is not his first time intentionally turning somebody in retaliation. This one was way worse.
No, it was pretty idiotic. I saw that. Yeah.
I'll set the scene for you. Lap 91 of 100. We're almost to the end of the race. And Eric Almirola, which is a part-time driver, keep in mind, but he's still a Cup Series winner and a pretty decent, Xfinity driver. I mean, I almost call him a bushwhacker, but he's really not. But, he gets to Austin Hill's bumper, gets him loose, gets him up the track. Austin Hill does make a pretty impressive save. But in the same events as Carl Edwards and Brad Keselowski, as Larry McReynolds says, those white gloves, they tell the story. Austin Hill had that car straight, and you watch his gloves turn left, hooking Eric Almirola hard in the outside wall of turn 3. And I honestly think that is a chicken shit move on Austin Hill's part, and I'm going to use the exact terms that Richard Childress used. It's a chicken shit move. Yet, we'll get to Richard Childress here in a second.
He wasn't happy.
Well, I'm not happy with him either, so we'll go with that. NASCAR parked Austin Hill for 5 laps. Now, keep in mind, this came on lap 93. They didn't go green until lap 97. So, essentially, they parked him till the end of the race. So, I mean, it came in different terms than most people wanted to hear, but in reality, it finished his race right there. So, I see no problem with that part of the penalty. I think there should be more. I think that's a slap on the wrist if that's all he got. Eric Almirola did walk away. I will say that he did walk away, which is an incredible sight because Eric has been in massive crashes before. I mean, just thinking back of Kansas in the Cup Series where he broke his back, which is a scary thought. What were you going to say?
No, I was just saying, haven't other drivers been fined for that on top of it and even suspended?
Carson Hocevar, I believe, got a penalty and a fine for it. I believe Austin Cindric got a penalty earlier in the year. Chase Elliott got a 1-race suspension for hooking Denny Hamlin. Bubba Wallace got a penalty for turning Kyle Larson and then fighting him on the front stretch. So there is a history of suspension. There's also a history of fines. But keep this in mind. None of those have been repeat offenders. Let's see. There was Martinsville with Myatt Snyder, where he punched him and knocked him out cold on pit road. We've got, I believe it was 2022, where he got into it with his teammate it might have been 2023. Either way, 2020 something, I think it was 2023, got into it with his teammate on pit road at Martinsville. 2024, we have the infamous Austin's Hill and Cole Custer turning him down the backstretch after they had been in a wreck together. This is not his first time, for lack of better terms, being a jackass. I'm sorry for my profanity, but there is no great way to do it. I'm hoping that YouTube does its thing and mutes this. But I am highly irritated with Austin Hill, and I made it a point to tag Richard Childress Racing, saying, I'm hoping you realize this is the same kind of angle that killed your best driver, and you wonder why you guys are not relevant anymore.
Well, this show is about being old school, so...
Well, trust me, we're going old school on this one, because, trust me, if we ain't got old school, we ain't got Richard Childress Racing anymore, because they weren't any good until, the 90s ended. They've been junk since the 90s. I want to bring a reference, and I heard this today. It was a pretty good reference.
Harvick could have won a lot more championships if that team would have had their head out of their ass.
Just hold on. I heard this reference today. I believe it was Eric Eastep from Out of the Groove. He made the reference that Richard Childress Racing is essentially the Jerry Jones of the NFL. And that is a very, very accurate point. And I know there's a few football fans that watch this, and I would like to share my comparisons. The Cowboys have not been any good since the 90s. Richard Childress Racing has been no good since the 90s. They both seem to make the headlines for all the wrong reasons. Both the Cowboys and Jerry Jones, and Richard Childress and Richard Childress Racing. Similar comparisons, I think they're pretty damn accurate. And I want to give full credit to Eric on that if he's the one who said it, because that is an absolute brilliant comparison, and he is 100% spot on with that.
And speaking of Richard Childress, how he said at the end of the race the other day, like, we got to get some damn cars or something like that. Like,
after Dover,
Richard, you need to get some drivers. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but Austin hasn't been worth a crap since he stepped in the car. I mean, he hasn't done anything. He's won a couple of big name races, but I mean, the Daytona 500 was just luck.
I mean, I have some quotes from Richard Childress Racing, and I wanted to bring these to a point because this just shows how out of touch Richard Childress is. And it really pisses me off that somebody who was so hell-bent on the safety is now going to defend people for making moves like this. In my notes, I have Richard Childress Racing defends Hill. When asked if Hill should be suspended, Childress states, hell no, they, in regards to NASCAR, didn't do a damn thing to the two, which is Cendric, when he wrecked Ty Dillon and admitted to it. Now keep in mind, NASCAR, I believe, gave a $50,000 fine, or I believe it was some sort of points penalty, and a monetary fine after COTA. Keep that in mind. So first off, that's strike one against Richard Childress' credibility. It's who you are. We're a blue-collar team. They give us trouble all the time. Well,
your
maybe
drivers
it's
are
not
causing
just you.
trouble.
Maybe it's your drivers. I mean, Austin Hill has started quite a few fights. I think the only driver that I'm surprised has not started a fight yet is Kyle Busch. And I think we had that, 2 years ago was the highest point of him fighting, and he knocked the crap out of Stenhouse. But that's the last time you saw him fight. Your Xfinity drivers are supposed to be the ones that are making a name for themselves to move up. When they move to the Cup Series, what sponsor is going to want to sponsor that driver for intentionally wrecking and basically putting somebody's life on the line for what? 9th? I mean, I'm sorry, Austin Hill, but you were a fucking moron. Like, you cannot think that is a reasonable action to do.
Nathan,
I try very hard not to swear, but he really has me angry about this. There's no excuse for a move so bullshit.
Hey, tell me how you really feel.
Austin Hill should be suspended until Daytona of next year is what I think. I said this to somebody earlier this week, and I know it's a little bit of an overreaction, but NASCAR needs to suspend him for 6 races, and Richard Childress needs to spend the next 6 with him parked on the bench and put somebody else in the car. Somebody from the Truck Series, somebody who actually deserves the ride. Maybe that'll be the wake-up call to make Richard Childress actually good again.
Wasn't there a driver that got penalized for something, and it actually ended his playoff run?
Not that I'm aware of.
His playoff chance, I should say.
Not that I'm aware of, but that is still an option. If Austin Hill does get suspended and he gets a waiver, he loses all his playoff points, which he's 3rd most in playoff points this year. If they suspend him and he gets a waiver, he will start dead last in the Xfinity Series playoffs, if he can even make the playoffs. Like, he's got the win, but I don't think he's actually going to, depending on how they rule this. If he gets suspended, he loses his playoff points. So, at best, he will start last in the Xfinity Series playoffs. At best.
The only decent driver that Childress even has is Kyle Busch. I mean, I'm going
to dispute that. Jesse Love is actually pretty decent when he's actually in the Xfinity cars on tracks that kind of fit his style. Super speedways are obviously RCR's bread and butter, except for yesterday when they decided to get their heads stuck in their ass. But I mean, there's way more I need to cover than this. This will probably be a whole other episode that really, he's got me to where I'm probably gonna have to do an episode later this week when they give his actual penalty, if they do. Let's move on to the Cup Series real quick, just because I need to get this in before my phone starts going nuts. Denny Hamlin actually crashed in qualifying. He was on a heater. Toyota was doing phenomenal things in qualifying, and if it weren't for the fact that he hit the wall on exit of turn 2 and slid the entire way down the backstretch to hit the inside wall, he probably would have had the pole yesterday. Instead, he started dead last because he had to go to a backup car. But on the other hand, Chase Briscoe won the pole for today's race. That is the 3rd crown jewel race he has won the pole for this year. He won the Daytona 500, he won the Coke 600, and now he's won the Indy the Brickyard 400 poles. And I'm not sure what other crown jewels there are left, but he's got at least 3 of them so far. So, we'll come to the green flag. Lap 20, Michael McDowell bumps Chastain. Basically the one backed it into the wall so hard that it ended his day. As they said something about he had to use the air jacks to get it back to pit road, which they were commenting was a pretty smart idea. I honestly think it's pretty smart to use it that way. I didn't know you could use it that way, but hey, that's just me. So Briscoe ended up winning stage one. Cendric was actually leading the field on lap 84, and when he blew a right rear tire. Now, granted, he was a long ways out there. Then ended up blowing a right rear tire. I believe it was off of turn or going into turn 3. Somehow didn't hit the wall. Actually, no, I believe it was going down the front stretch. Going into turn 1, I think he blew the tire, made it all the way around the track without debris going everywhere. He somehow made it back to pit road without there being a caution. So that was rather impressive. That's just going to be the story of the day. Lap 90, Eric Jones comes to pit road, and I guess they didn't jack the car up to put the wheel nut on. He ends up losing a left or right front wheel, where the rotor cut through the wheel and hits the wall. I'd say pretty significantly hard. It was hard enough that it wrapped the tire up into the fender well. It didn't even come off. The wheel came off, but the tire was actually wrapped up in the fender, like he broke the whole toe link and everything. It was rather impressive. He hit it and didn't lose the extra tire. That ended his day pretty suddenly. Ryan Blaney actually won stage 2, but had to start at the rear for the beginning of stage 3 because he pitted too early. He pitted while pits were closed because he was going to run out of gas, which I guess is a reasonable reason to pit early. But still, lap 135, Joey Logano blew a right rear tire, which sounds an awful lot like Austin Cindric. He made it to pit road, but he stalled the car on pit road, and they couldn't get it to fire at first. If I'm not mistaken, he went down 2 laps with just that, which is pretty crazy. They couldn't get the car fired. They pushed it like 3 stalls down, it wouldn't fire, and they finally ran and just kept pushing him, and he finally fired off and went. But definitely a bad break for Joey Logano. Bubba Wallace took the lead during a pit road cycle, in which, conveniently enough, on lap 155, there was a caution for rain, which ended up turning into an 18-minute and 11-second red flag. We're going to overtime finally. Lap 162, Bubba Wallace and Kyle Larson start in the front row. And as they're coming back to get the white flag, going down the backstretch, Christopher Bell turns Zane Smith, which didn't seem too egregious. But when Zane Smith came back across the track, he corrected Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano, and Jesse Love, which Tyler Reddick had nowhere to go. As the car came back up the track, it basically ended right as Zane came right back up the track. It landed right in Reddick's lap. He clobbered him pretty good. That was the end of Reddick's race right there. So we get through all that cleanup, and right now the leaders are very, very low on fuel. There was radio communication that Bubba Wallace wasn't even going to make it back to the flag. We were actually surprised. I was watching with my wife.
We couldn't have got that lucky.
Well, trust me, I thought for sure he was going to pull down pit road. But for some reason, coming to the choose, Bubba did not go down pit road. So he, hung it out there. So the top 5 coming to the green flag, and top 5 are all pretty low on fuel. We had Bubba, Larson, Byron, Hamlin, and Barry. Barry, out of all of them, was probably the best on fuel, but I don't actually know what his fuel level was at that point. But he was probably the best out of all of them because Hamlin was pushing it also. None of them pit. So they took the green flag, they come back to the white flag, and going down the backstretch, William Byron ran out of fuel coming down the backstretch. He was running 3rd, so that negated him to further back in the field. Kyle Larson had a chance to pass him, couldn't quite get there. I thought for sure Bubba was stumbling, and he never made it there. But Bubba Wallace ends up winning the Brickyard 400 by a little over 2 tenths. Now, keep in mind, it was more like, 4 or 5 tenths coming to the white flag. So Kyle definitely reeled him in, but he just ran out of time to get there. Had it been another lap, he probably would have gotten him. But with this win, and I was surprised by this fact myself, with Bubba Wallace winning the Brickyard 400, it is the first black driver to win at IMS in its history, which I had to go look this up for the Indy 500. and I couldn't believe it, that there has never been a black driver to win the race. So congrats to Bubba on winning the race. That's definitely something that, will stick with you the rest of your life, of being the first and only one to win. So I'm kind of happy about that.
In my opinion, he isn't actually completely black. He's actually biracial. So it's the same as the president. When they were saying Obama was the first black president, Obama was the first biracial president. So
to be fair, I don't know if there is any
sick.
of those.
I get so sick of this white black rhetoric bullshit.
Yes,
dude, I'm gonna tell you what. We're all human beings, and that's just the way it is. That's what matters.
Yep.
I don't care what color our skin is. I get so sick of this crap, and I get sick of the government ramming it down our throats and everything else. So,
I got one more for you, and this was the big story of the weekend. Well, at least for the way Cookie Monster put it, which I am still mad about that one. The number 6 seed of Ty Gibbs defeated the number 32 seed of Ty Dillon in the in-season tournament. Ty Gibbs finished 21st, and Ty Dillon finished 28th. So Ty Gibbs won the in-season tournament and won $1 million for his team. And the last time I checked, the same guy that led after Atlanta also won the $1 million in the NASCAR fan bracket online. Now, every bracket was broken, so the only reason he won is because he only had 500 and some points versus the rest of us that had like 81. So, I mean, good for him, but the standings hadn't changed since Atlanta, so you kind of knew it was going to be him. Maybe it's just me. That sounds kind of dumb. I don't think he should win, but you never know. But yeah, that was one of those, you thought it was going to be better than it actually was battles. And at one point, Ty Gibbs slowed up so much with the wreck on the backstretch in overtime that Ty Dillon was right behind him. So it was kind of entertaining when I saw that pull up on the screen that Ty Dillon was right behind him. But I guess Ty Dillon had some sort of nose damage and just couldn't make up the gap, because he ended up finishing 28th, and I think Ty Gibbs pulled away from him on the final restart. But congrats to Ty Gibbs on winning the $1 million for your team and winning the inaugural in-season tournament. I'm hoping next year we'll change the tracks up so it won't be so, how do I put this, lame when it comes to the in-season bracket. And when every single person's bracket busted, at the first race before it was even halfway through it, it kind of lost any reason to watch those races because there wasn't much there. I mean, it didn't help that I was preparing for a wedding, so I didn't watch them really at all for that reason. I kind of was just tuning in just to see what happened.
Man, I was trying to hustle up and finish my stuff that I needed to get done for your wedding, and then do shows and go to work. Oh man, it was tough, dude.
I do have one bone to pick with IMS. If you're going to announce that Cookie Monster is going to do the command, you better believe that all these little kids that tuned in, including the adult little kids that wanted to see that, are really pissed at you when you have the PPG executive give the command and don't show Cookie Monster at all during the episode. As a 90s kid, I was furious. How dare you entice us with Cookie Monster and then not put him on the television at all? I was so mad at that.
Jeez,
that was my funny mad for the week. But I was all excited about that, all excited to see how they're going to do that, and then they just put the PPG executive on the command, and I was what was this shit?
I just sit here and scratch my head because I saw this comment right here that says Ashley Johns. I'm not used to seeing that. I'm so used to seeing Mercado.
I made that comment like the day after the wedding, as I was not prepared for somebody to be tagging me by that name, and it said it's going to take me a little bit. I'm still adjusting to it, and it's only been 8 days. I was not prepared to see that.
Right.
But yeah, it's been an eventful weekend. We'll say that. And we go from the highs of them announcing, NASCAR racing on San Diego at the Navy base, to Austin Hill, essentially, what you would think, putting his career out to pasture because he should be done, to Bubba Wallace winning a in my opinion, a pretty mediocre Indy 500. I thought there was going to be a lot more excitement.
It's not Indy
And it really,
500.
or not Indy, the Brickyard 400. You know what I mean? At Indianapolis, I figured that was going to be a good race. I mean,
Well,
I guess it was, but it really wasn't. I was kind of disappointed. Like, if I were to put it on a scale, I wouldn't even give it, 60%. It might have been like
well, but
55, maybe 50. It was really not that great, in my opinion. I was kind of disappointed with it.
somebody told me, Bubba won the race today. I said, yeah, well, everybody else probably crashed out or something, but I don't know.
The only reason that all the good drivers, weren't up there is because there really wasn't any good drivers. To keep in mind, there is not a whole lot of big name drivers that are any good if they're not at Gibbs or Hendrick or even Penske in that case sometimes. And Penske really isn't, they've got Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney, and Ryan Blaney's a 50-50 shot. Joey Logano's about the same 50-50.
I don't know how true this is, but I saw a few different posts about Kyle Larson being open to talking to Roger Penske about a deal.
I don't know how accurate that is. Maybe for Indy, but not for NASCAR.
That's what I was thinking, but it never specified. So I don't.
From what I understand, I've seen comments. I've seen comments from Kyle about that. I think he's done with Indy, but I don't actually know. Because he made the comments during the broadcast that he was so glad he doesn't have to hear any more talks about the double in pre-race. So I'm on the fence about wondering if that's true or that's just speculation or rumor.
To be honest,
I don't think it's accurate, but you never know.
I can't see him leaving Hendricks. I mean, Hendricks is so good to him that I think it's going to be really tough for him to leave.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Penske races Chevys. If I'm not mistaken, Penske they drive Chevys in IndyCar.
I don't. Yeah, I was just saying.
I think they're a Chevy making IndyCar. So to be fair, if he does go to Penske, it's not like he's leaving Hendrick to go to Penske. He's just leaving, Arrow McLaren, which is still Chevy, to another Chevy IndyCar team. You're not really changing manufacturers. I mean, there's Honda and Chevy. I can't see Hendrick going to Honda, and I'm pretty sure that the only teams that run Honda are like Andretti. I don't even think there's very many teams that run those anymore. Like I realistically don't think it's going to be that big of a deal if it is.
You've got McLaren in there.
Well, I'm pretty sure they're a Chevy team though. Arrow McLaren, I'm pretty sure, is a Chevy power plant.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know much about Indy. I don't follow Indy.
I don't know much about it either. I've just kind of seen the teams. I know that when Joseph Newgarden won, I was kind of surprised it wasn't Ford on the thing because Penske, would think is Ford, but it's actually not. It's a Chevy team. So that's why I'm pretty sure that, even if he is in talks with Penske, it's a Chevy to a Ford, or a Ford to a Chevy IndyCar. They're completely different series, so I don't really see the issue there. And, with Hendrick being a loyal GM brand, I can't really see, him going with anybody other than a Chevy team, and there's only a few of them in IndyCar. I mean, most of the big teams are Chevy. I don't see Honda really doing a whole lot. I'm pretty sure every race this year has been won by a Chevy team. I mean, Palou, I think, is a Chevy. Kirkwood, I believe, is a Chevy because he's part of IndyCar or part of Penske, I believe. But yeah, I get the highlights just because of the Indy 500. But I really don't think that, him changing teams is going to be that big a deal. Or changing IndyCar teams, I should say.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just my 2 cents on it.
So, I don't know. I could talk a little bit about the crap going on in the world of outlaws and stuff like that. But Before I get into that, we did actually receive a very, very nice message from Bridget and her family, Bridget Emick and her family, I should say, about the tribute that we did on Bert. And, I'm not going to sit here and read through everything, but she did appreciate it and said that we are continuing his legacy by honoring him in that way. And I just wanted to let her know in the video. I've already sent her a message back, but Bridget, it was a great honor. Bert has been a great inspiration to myself and many, many, many other people. And we were so, so glad that we had him with us while we did. And we appreciate you and your family for sharing him with us for the long time that you did. I know it couldn't have been easy for you, but you supported him in something that he loved and actually supported his passion. So I'm sure Bert is very, very thankful for that as well. So thank you, Bridget, for allowing us to be able to be part of that and to honor your late husband. So, Bert, we love you. So, moving on now to the bullshit in the sprint car world. As I put in my update videos, that there's a little bit of a rules, I wouldn't say infraction because there really isn't any rule about it, but some of the guys actually are just like flaring out in the back of the pack. Danny Dietrich made a point about this in his post-crash interview at BAPS on Wednesday. And he was pissed. He had every right to be pissed off. But the guys that are flaring out in the back of the field and they're going green and they're on the gas before the leaders even take off for the green flag. And Danny's got a point. I know a lot of people don't like Danny. Danny's very brash and he's very harsh, but he's got a good point. I've noticed this over the last 2 seasons of actually getting back into sprint car racing and watching it deeply, because I was out of the game for a while as a kart track promoter. So I didn't get a lot of time to sit and watch sprint car racing. Well, I have the last couple of years, and I've noticed exactly what he's talking about. I've noticed it while watching on the TV. I've noticed it while watching in person, and it is getting out of hand sometimes. These guys they'll flare out, they'll hit up the top of the track, and then they'll dart back down in front of everybody before they even get to the damn line. Now, you want to talk about dangerous. We're trying to consider driver safety and make it better. Look at what happened in Ohio a week or so ago. We had 3 or 4 guys get hurt, and 2 of them get life flighted out of the racetracks that they were at because of some crap. So, I mean, what are we doing? And then today, from what I understand, I haven't had a chance to sit and watch it, but another person that I know that was watching the broadcast, basically they told Danny Dietrich just shut up about it, and nobody broke any rules. Well, of course, there's no rules there to be broken. But Danny makes a good point, and that is something that needs to be looked at. I am huge on driver safety and fairness for everybody. When these guys are going at the back of the pack and they're jumping 2 or 3 rows at a time and then darting across the field trying to find a hole, hoping they don't run into somebody, that's not driving with your head. So there needs to be some rules to be looked into and implemented, and action needs to be taken to fix this problem. And when it comes to the single file starts, guys are doing the same shit. You need to keep yourself in line and wait till you pass that cone. Because either way, you're not going to be able to pass anybody until you go by that cone. And then if you are getting close, you're going to have to jam the brakes and then bottle everybody up behind you. And that could cause another big pile up. So these starts need to be looked at, and these restarts need to be looked at. And these guys, they need to keep them nose to tail in line until you get past that cone. Plain and simple. The way that it used to be. They're letting too much crap get out of hand, and they're not doing anything to anybody about it. Just like the gravel Larson incident. Okay, something should have been done about that. Gravel had to spin him out. I don't care who they are. Okay, it doesn't matter to me who they are. But I'm using their names for reference. I don't care the two drivers. I don't care if I like one or hate one. It doesn't matter. The point is, they just crossed the finish line and they're going through the first corner, still slowing down from going over 130 miles per hour at Eldora, and you want to spin him out in front of guys that are still crossing the line and still racing to the line, and they're just coming into that corner slowing down. Now, what was so safe and so professional about that? Not a damn thing. You want to talk about professionalism, David? Well, that wasn't. You want to talk about safety? That sure wasn't. Okay? I support all you guys, but I'm telling you this. That was not professional and that was not safe at all. And I do not support you on that. I will argue that with you to the end. So, I'm sorry if anybody is a gravel fan out there, but, I don't care who they are. I don't care if it was Joe Schmo off the street versus the next Joe Schmo off the street. It wasn't safe and it wasn't professional, and it doesn't need to happen anymore. And the Outlaws to not do anything about it? Oh, well, obviously they're not going to because, well, David, you're their golden boy right now, and you know nothing's going to happen to you. You know you can get away with that kind of crap. Just like everybody says about Brad Sweet and High Limit. Now, he's the owner. He's the golden child. He's the champion. He can get away with this, that, and the other. And I disagree with something they did with Brad Sweet. Back at their, what was it? I think it was 2 races ago when Brad got in that accident, right at the start of the race. They pulled him in the work area, and they fixed his car, and they changed the right rear tire. That tire was still holding air. It was not flat, and they didn't show any proof of damage that could be a potential safety hazard later on in the race, and they still let him change the tire. And that's wrong. That's not right at all. I don't care if he went to the back of the pack or not. It doesn't matter. The rule says you can't change the tire unless it's, okayed by the officials because of damage. So where's the proof, Mike Hess? You proved to us that David Gravel's nose wing was too far forward, and I agree with that. Rules are rules, okay? No matter who it was, I don't care if it was the local driver. Rules are rules. The nose wing was too far, and you tried to come up with a reason that it wasn't. You tried to help him out, and there was just nothing you could do because it was right there on camera. Everybody was watching. So rules are rules, and I understand that. But also, your driver in your series, Brad Sweet, changing that tire when it was still perfectly fine holding air and not showing us any proof of damage. Rules are rules, and that's wrong. I'm sorry, but that's bullshit, in my opinion. And another one, I don't remember what series it was. I think it was actually during PA Speed Week when I believe it's at BAPS when Macri was out front and they had that open red where people said they mistaked it for, it was just a mistake on the announcer's part on what they said to the people on TV. It doesn't really matter. It was an open red. And first of all, earlier in the race, Macri was part of the caution. He got his damn spot back. Oh, he spun to miss. It was really, really tough to make that call. Okay, I'll give it to him because I've been an official. It's a tough call to make, and you got to make it. So he got his spot back. Okay, whatever. But later on, people are running out of fuel. Well, and then all of a sudden you throw a caution. Well, there was guys that got screwed, so they should have been able to come back on the track. in my opinion. And second of all, under that open red, Macri and other, I don't know if anybody else did it, but I've seen it after that. Macri's out there grinding his tire. They're grinding the right rear and they're rolling that car forward, grinding that right rear. That is a bunch of crap, in my opinion, and it should not be allowed. If you're not allowed to change the right rear, you shouldn't be allowed to alter the right rear by using a grinder on it. I don't care. Rules are rules. You want to sit here and say, well, it's too hard to police it. Well, if you have official, how hard is it to see somebody grinding on a tire? You know, have your officials spread out. How many of them you got in the infield? You know, come on now. I understand it's hard. It's hard to police changing tire pressures and this, that, and the other. But that car is moving. If that car starts moving, they have to roll it forward so they could grind the tire. They have to roll it backwards so they could grind the tire. You know, so it's not that hard to tell when a car is moving. The only time those cars should be moving, especially under a red flag, is if an official actually tells a push truck to move that car. Other than that, that car shouldn't move an inch. Okay, that's just my opinion. I'm sorry, but I'm very passionate about this. And I think it's a bunch of shit. And it needs to stop. Or there needs to be rules stated that it is okay to grind those tires and to change tires. Plain and simple. I don't care if Bradstreet was in the work area or if he was on the track. That tire got changed and it wasn't right. Unless it was proven that there was damage to it that was going to be a safety concern down the line later on in that race. Like it was cut a little bit. I understand. Okay. Something like that, people can get behind. But there was no proof and there was no statement made about why it happened. And nobody else has brought it up on their shows except for me. Why? Why is that? No. Well, I'm not going to sit here and kiss the series' asses because they're not supporting me any. I know. But I'm just saying they're not supporting me any. They're not paying me to talk about their shows or their events. Okay, so I'm just trying to point out the obvious. Because people ask me, they come to me, ask me questions. Well, why was Bradstreet allowed to change the tire? Why was David Gravel disqualified? Why did David spin somebody out and not get in trouble for it? Well, you know what? I can't answer that question because I'm not the series, but I'll tell you what, I'll call the series out on my show and maybe you can get some answers. Yeah.
When all this stuff happened. So my question is if there was a camera crew there and you could see it on the broadcast, you would think it would be, on the jumbotrons, where maybe the officials would see it on said jumbotrons, or maybe even better yet, the camera crew would be standing over it and the officials would see said camera crew and go, hey, they're doing something they shouldn't be, and stop it. Well, there's a big camera. There's a big display. You think you would see that.
Well, that's the point. Whether it's on the TV crew's camera or somebody is videotaping, there is a camera everywhere these days. And this stuff is stuff that can be proven anymore.
It's essentially, it's an extra official. You could see it.
To be honest with you, I don't care if they're allowed to grind the tires during a red flag. Fine, that's fine. But there's no rule stating that it's allowed. So in my opinion, that falls under the very rule of changing a right rear tire.
And you're not wrong with that. It makes sense.
If you are not allowed to change a right rear tire, then you should not be allowed to grind a right rear tire because you're still altering that tire in some way.
It essentially just resets the tire, which is the same thing as putting a brand new tire on it. You're 100% right with that.
And I'll tell you this, I have spoken to many current and former sprint car drivers, guys that raced back in the 90s and the early 2000s, and guys that race now. And they all agree with me. There needs to be a clear-cut rule on it, or it doesn't need to be allowed. Plain and simple. I mean, am I wrong?
Nope. I feel like you're 100% right with that. I mean, if it's in the rules that you can't change tires, that may be a gray area, but it still falls under that exact category. It's the same thing, just not exactly how they wrote it. It's still the same concept.
So here's how it needs to be. Just like I started doing at my go-kart track, and just like NASCAR started doing. If the rule book does not say you are allowed to do it, then that means you are not allowed to do it. Plain and simple. There's no gray area. It's black and white.
And then you could be like Ross Chastain and make a rule about it. I still have to laugh about how they went about that one. I couldn't help myself on that.
They're so worried about making stupid ass rules to ban the headers from being turned up like Paul Silva did last year, rather than putting rules in place to protect the drivers and their safety.
Yep.
What was so unsafe about this stupid headers being turned up? You want to know what it did? It didn't do any damn thing. All it was a head game. The most it would have done is keep the shock cool and maybe the tire cool. The downforce didn't do a damn thing. It didn't do nothing. Steve Kinzer, Sammy Swindell, and other guys did it way back in the 90s and the 80s and 90s, and it was proven that it didn't do anything, and they went right back to the straight headers. It was just a head game. It was just to mess with everybody. That's what makes Paul Silva one of the greatest crew chiefs and car owners in the sport. You know, plain and simple. You know, I'm not taking anything away from David Gravel or any other driver out there. Gravel knows how to drive a race car. I'll give him that credit. But what he did wasn't professional, and what he did wasn't safe. That's my point about it all. You know, Kyle Larson would not have thrown those sliders on him if he didn't think he could make them work. It's not like Brady Bacon taking out Caleb Henry at Attica. Bacon pretty much should have never threw that slider. He was way too far behind, and it was stupid to do it. Plain and simple, it was stupid. He didn't use his head. You know?
Sounds like Austin Hill.
Well, I watched it. I sat right there in the stands, right where Caleb Henry hit the damn fence, and I watched it. Bacon was way too far behind to even try to throw a slider and make it work. It was never going to stick. So he should have just backed off the gas and took what he could get. You know, I hate to say that, but you know, sometimes you have to. You have to just take those losses and move on. You know, I've had to do it in my racing career plenty of times. So, you know, but these guys these days, they have nothing to lose. They don't own their cars, and they don't care. They want to win at all costs, and they don't care what the cost is. You know, start making these guys put some of their money back into the car, and maybe it'll change. You know, it's ridiculous. But that's just my rant for now.
Well, that sounds like enough show for this weekend. Or for this weekend.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. But I don't know. I wanted to take it back old school so we could get some of this off of our chest. We're halfway through the season, so you know,
that sounds fair.
Let's take it back old school to where we started, and you know, go from there.
So opinionated as can be.
Hey, why not? I mean, it is what it is. That is the name of the game, right?
We're switching it up.
So, anyways, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. But remember, guys, we bring you insane motorsports moments, our professional breakdowns, and adrenaline-packed edits every single week. So whether you actually live for those sideways, mudslinging, dirt track sliders, or the rubber-throwing, trading paint speeds of NASCAR, you belong right here. Hit that subscribe button below so you never, ever miss a finish.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook.
So that's going to do it for us. Nathan, what do you think?
I think it's about time to wrap it up. So with Switching Grooves, I'm Nathan Johns.
And I'm Russ Fritz saying race hard.
Stay safe, everyone.
And we'll see you there.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.